What is up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Talk to Me here on notfest.com. As always, I'm Joshua Toomey, joined by the one and only Chris Akin. Chris, how are we doing?
What is up, man? I feel nervous because we're live.
We went live on Facebook, man.
I'm nervous.
Don't say anything stupid, man. Everybody can hear you.
Oh, yeah, as if they can't hear me any other time, right? Isn't that
any
all
other
I
time
do?
being stupid.
Yeah, it's all I do is be stupid.
Well, man, you seem in good spirits. You feeling better?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I was able to do all 5 hours of the CMS the other night, and I did 2.5 hours of Chris Akin Presents yesterday, and no pain in the shoulder. I mean, it's hurting a little right now for some reason. Saw you coming and said, "Fuck, time to seize up." But
right.
But I think I'm past the bad part of it. I'll just put it that way. I think there's still something going on in there, but it's tolerable now. So I'll take that. So all good.
All good, man. Well, this week I interviewed Alan Robert of Life of Agony, and you and I have both interviewed Alan multiple times over the years, and he's kind of a hard nut to crack sometimes. And to me, he's kind of it takes a minute to get him warmed up, man. But we talked for like almost an hour, and he told great stories. And he actually even hit me at the beginning before we started recording and said, "It's cool that you're doing some stuff with Chris Akin. He and I did a really good interview like a year ago." So he gave props to you and stuff. So
thank you to Alan Robert.
Great.
Thank you to Alan Robert for remembering me. That's pretty cool. Yeah. You know what? You're right though. He's, and I don't want to turn this into this is the art of interviewing thing, but there's something to be said about cadence. And you get into your cadence, and the first and for anybody that's watching, it's the reasons you get a lot of garbage questions at the beginning of an interview, is because you're trying to find your cadence to match their cadence. And Alan has that weird kind of off cadence when you start talking to him. You ask him a question, he's like, "Well, it was really good because it was really good." He has like that pause in there where you get ready to start firing a question, and then he comes back. But once you get it, he's great. And I'm going to assume with you, it's the same with me. Doesn't hurt that we're humongous fans of what he does.
All right. Yeah. I was listening back during the edit, and it was funny because I told him that, I've been having issues with my son. And obviously the first River Runs Red album is kind of the, from the kid's point of view, coming home from school and hearing all those answering machine messages.
Sure.
So as a kid, you grew up listening to Life of Agony, and you're like, man, I totally relate to this kid. And now that I have kids, I'm like, I'm like the mom on there. I'm like, "Did you know that the school called me today?" Like doing all that stuff.
Right.
And so I guess you grow enough to one day become the parent on that album.
Yeah, you've taken that album full circle, man. Circle of Life. That such a great album, though. I mean, let's just be honest. They almost set themselves up to not have a great career by making an album that good at first. Yeah. Not that they didn't have a great career, but they didn't have, superstar career. If that would have been their third album, if they would have gone Weeds or whatever that's called, Soul Searching Sun, then Ugly, then River Runs Red, they would be a stadium band.
I could see that, because even in the interview, I talked to him a little bit about really not giving Weeds its due back in the day, just because of the turmoil around the band. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, obviously, River Runs Red is amazing. I love Ugly. First two records out of the gate, man, are fantastic. And 30th anniversary of that's in like 2 years. I'm like, dude, we're gonna do an Ugly 30th anniversary. He goes, it's kind of funny about that one is because it's a little bit slower and a little bit maybe a little bit more. Not as punch you in the face as River Runs Red. And I'm like, dude, one of my favorite LOA songs is Let's Pretend. And that's probably the softest song they have,
Yeah.
One of.
Yeah. And I'll stand by Lost at 22 is still probably my favorite song they ever did. That is just, if you know what you do, I do it. It's like, yes.
Yeah, that, and I think live they did The Other Side of the River. I know they did that at the last show. So yeah, but then they ended up, like I said, they closed with Weeds, which was after hearing it live this many years later, I'm like, yeah, it's a pretty good song.
Oh yeah. You know what? Correct me if I'm wrong with you, but for me, that album, I love that record, but it did take me a while to get it.
Yeah.
Because that's the first one where Keith didn't have the deep voice.
Right.
His voice is like a full octave higher than the first two records. And it really was almost, to me, I remember listening to it. And, you know, I used to listen to it when I was working out in the mornings. And every time I would listen to it, I was like, man, is this a new singer? It felt like a new singer. It didn't feel like traditional Life of Agony. But but it has great songs on it too. Heroin Dreams is a brilliant song. And I know that's like Keith's Pain song of all Pain songs, but what a brilliant tune, man.
Yeah, the other thing was those live they played the answering machine messages in between songs. And he said, looking back on, like, you know, Mrs. Cooker is really Alan's mom, and there's a girl on there that's an ex-girlfriend of Alan's that actually passed away recently. So, you know, things like that, like all those old memories were coming up to him in between songs because he was hearing those answering machine voicemails over the PA.
Sure.
Kinda, you know, and he said that they really had people calling into an answering machine, you know, acting those parts out.
Wow, dude, that has to be tough, you know, when the stuff and for any musician, I mean, you've done this gig, man. Is it tough when you are kind of having to relive something that you sort of don't want to every single night because you turned it into a song?
Ooh, I never really like dove into the lyrics too much. So like I might hear some lyrics and be like, ooh, I remember what that's about, but I don't think I've ever really went to, you know, I don't really feel the emotion of the song live because those aren't my lyrics.
Yeah, I can't even imagine it, dude. I mean, I have songs that now, because I've associated them so close to something horrible in my life that I can't listen to. You know, I start hearing it now and I'm like, ooh, let me flip that off quickly. You know, don't want to hear that. You know, and those are songs I didn't write. They're just songs that I probably played 300 times when I was going through my divorce or something like that. It's like, yeah, no, I don't need to go back down that rabbit hole. I can't imagine if I actually wrote a song about a divorce or a death or, you know, something really, really hard to deal with, and then having to play it for 500 or 1,000 people every night because they expect to hear it. Ugh, that would suck.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. I mean, Alan wrote lots of those lyrics on the first album, so I did ask him if it was tough to kind of go back and have to relive that. That's when he brought up the answering machine stuff.
Sure.
So man, yeah, go and check out that interview I did with Alan. I walked away like that was a good interview. Like,
nice.
You know,
very good.
Some days you do an interview and you're like, that was okay. You know, you tell me about the new record. Tell me about the producer. Tell me about the songwriting process. You know, was this a COVID record? You know, none of that stuff in this. This was all just two dudes talking.
This was Toomey fandom on overload.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, before the interview, he asked me what kind of bass that was back there, and I showed it to him. And I bought that during for the 12 volt kind of reunion show we did, and we opened with a snippet of River Runs Red, and he saw it on Facebook, and so I was joking with him. I was like, dude, if you would have told like 15-year-old me that one day I would be playing a Life of Agony track and Alan Robert would think it was cool, you know, to kill me now kind of deal. He goes, dude, I do that all the time when I look out in the crowd and I see like actors from horror movies that I love and they're singing the words. And I'm like, you don't even know right now how cool this is for me.
That's too funny. Nice.
Yeah. And you had Tony Simerman over there on the Chris Akin Presents, man. That dude is cool.
Dude, he was great. It was the weird thing, because I, as you know, and anybody that listens to me on my other shit knows, I'm not a big collector. I have my whole collection of stuff is about 5 things. 3 of them are right here. You know, these little, like a Lemmy.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Or this is a Lemmy. And I have like 2 other, like the pop, what are these called? Pop rock Lemmys.
Oh, nice.
I have 3 total Lemmys, and then maybe like I don't know. I have a signed Far Beyond Driven by all 4 guys. I have a signed Damage Plan by all 4 guys. I have a concert ticket that Jimmy Page signed for Dio, which is kind of odd. It's a Dio concert ticket, but Jimmy Page signed it. And I have a Led Zeppelin ticket for the show that got canceled because John Bonham died.
Right.
And that's the extent of my entire collection of collectibles. I'm just not a collector guy. So having Tony on, I didn't know how it was going to go. And having Eric, who I do the show with, he's not necessarily a big collector guy either. You know, I mean, he's in a band and he has like 10 pictures of band guys, you know, and he's in a band that plays with other famous musicians every single week. So he's not really that either. So I didn't know how it was going to go. Man, that guy was fantastic. He was, we did about half, we did an hour.
Okay.
And we did maybe half talking about his awesome stuff, which is awesome. The Knucklebone stuff is of all the collectibles, his is the coolest. I'll say, I don't know of anything better. Yeah. So we talked about that for a little while, and we talked about, you know, the process of creating it and getting the licensing, which is the, you know, I'm sure the same stuff you talked about with him as well. You know, we talked about that for about a half hour, but then he broke off into this really cool story about meeting Jimmy Page and that they wouldn't let him know where he was going. Right. And, you know, all this crazy, you know, me and Eric started our thing, put the bag over your head. You know, we started messing with them, having a little bit of fun, but then it just broke down to where he's a San Francisco Bay Area guy.
Okay.
So me and him started talking about shows that we had seen, the same types of shows. And we just kind of stopped talking about the stuff after a while. And he actually emailed me this morning and he was like, dude, I never get to just talk about music. It's always work. And he was like, I love just doing that. I was like, dude, come on anytime. So he's a great guest. He was really good, man. Totally cool.
Yeah. That Jimmy Page story is great.
It is. It's nuts.
They hired did you get to the part where like they hired the model? And she's like over there on the phone, like, Dad, do you know who this guy Jimmy Page is?
Yep.
He's just like, he's like, what?
Yeah. I just thought it was funny that they hire a crew to shoot Jimmy and then won't tell him where he lives.
Yeah.
You know, that was the part that he cracked me up. He's like, they said, we're not going to tell you his address. Get in the car. It's like, so you're flying to a foreign country and some stranger's telling you get in a car? I don't think so. You know, probably not.
Car.
Too funny. But yeah, he was really cool and super gracious, man. He's hooking me up with the one piece in his collection that I wanted. So he just hit me up after and he's like, hey, pick something out of the store that's not sold out and I'll send you one. And I hit him right back. Like I couldn't jump on. I could, if I could have jumped in my phone and rode the line back to his place, I would have, but I jumped right on it. I said, dude, I got to have this Far Beyond Driven skull. I was like, if that's not too much to ask for, that's what I want. And like 5 minutes later, I get a email from him to his production manager. Here's the address. Send it to Chris Akin at. I was like, yes.
It's funny. He's doing all these podcasts to talk about the stuff, you know, talk about the merchandise, and he's giving away like probably more than he's making from these interviews.
Oh, he probably is. What is he? I still don't know. Is he just, because I didn't have like a thing to promote, like here's the new signature this or that or nothing like that. I mean, I didn't see that anywhere that he had something specific to promote. He's just promoting Knucklebones, right?
Yeah, just out promoting Knucklebones. It was crazy because I think today or yesterday they posted a Guns N' Roses collection,
right?
And it looks awesome. Like I'm not the biggest Guns N' Roses fan, but the axle looks dead on. I don't know if we talked about it with you. With like the jersey, the Raiders jersey and whatnot.
Right.
I don't know how much he talked to you about it, but like they don't actually take an actual photo and make a statue. They create a statue out of poses that you know that they do, but it's not necessarily a 1-for-1 of a certain photo or whatnot.
Yeah, it was really interesting. The whole thing was, you know, to me was really interesting. I was asking him every question I could possibly think of. You know, I was asking him stuff like, you know, has he ever had licensing pulled because somebody died and then the family didn't want it where the artist might have wanted? He said, yes. I was like, wow, that's gotta suck. Can you imagine putting out a product because you had a working agreement with somebody and then they pass away and the family says, nope, take it off the shelf.
Yeah.
That's got to suck. Cause it's not like he makes these things, you know, it's not like he goes, and then it's done. You know,
yeah,
I mean,
these ball of clay.
They got to take weeks to make this stuff. So,
oh yeah,
you know, I don't know, very cool guy. You know, neither one of us making any money to promote Knuckle Bones, but the stuff is awesome.
Yeah,
so
it was great.
So yeah, good dude, good dude to chat with, man.
Good solid dude, man.
Yeah, he was.
Well, was you know. Well, let's talk about an upcoming tour real quick before we dive into the news, man. And look at that production today. Got a little production. For the Talk to Me live on Facebook Live here.
That's right.
Yeah, man, the Babyklok tour here, Babymetal and Dethklok together. I think that honestly, this is going to be a fantastic tour, just because, you know, the Babymetal camp is kind of campy and fun, and obviously Dethklok is cartoony and fun, man. So I think it's going to be an all around fantastic night of music and metal.
Now, with Dethklok coming touring, does that mean that they're going to get back into production and making some more shows, or no?
I don't know about that. I don't know. I know that I'm supposed to have Gene Hoglan back on the show sometime soon.
Okay.
So hopefully he can kind of give us the lowdown on everything.
Yeah, I'd just be curious if they're gonna, you know, it seems like now's the right time. I mean, obviously, looking at your shirt, you're well aware that Beavis and Butthead is back, obviously, for season 2/season 8, whatever it is. But
right,
you know, it seems like it might be the right time, and especially for something like Dethklok, where they like to, you know, like swear and stuff. That it might be the right time to do it.
Absolutely, yeah. And plus, I was supposed to have Gene Hoglan on a few weeks ago, and then the guitarist of Death Angel passed away. Dark Angel. I always get those fucking confused.
Yeah, Jim Durkin.
Yeah, Jim Durkin passed away like as we were setting everything up. So I think they were going to announce some things, and then when he passed away, I think they kind of pulled some things back. So,
boy, how's that for a kick in the balls? Not that a death isn't bad enough anyway, but it's like we've waited how long for Dark Angel to come back?
Yeah,
30 years. You know, shy of like a few sporadic dates here and there. They finally come back. They get it together. They're working on music, and the main guy dies. It's like, holy shit! Talk about not having good karma. Ooh.
Yeah. So last thing on this, man, make sure to go check out Babyklok on tour. And, get some tickets.
Yeah, go
at the Babyklok tour. The Babykloktour.com.
There you go. Very cool. That's probably a decent price show too, right? I'm sure it's not $100 a ticket.
Yeah, I would think you could probably get in there at a decent amount.
Yeah.
We bought Tori Amos tickets today. Are you excited?
I'm sorry to hear that. Sorry to hear that, my friend. Jesus.
It actually wasn't as bad ticket price as I thought it was going to be, but they still, man, it's like tickets are this, and then you go to check out, and you're just like, where the hell did all this extra come from? I think it was 40, like $39.50 a ticket.
Okay.
So 2 tickets. So it should be $80 plus whatever.
Right.
$128 when we checked out.
Yeah, so you bought a third ticket.
Yeah, basically. That's how it was for
fees.
Bill Burr and everybody else would have been buying tickets for. But
now, was this sliding scale or was that just fees?
It looked like just fees.
Okay, because that sliding scale, boy, is that a slick way to rip people off.
Yeah.
Wow. Ugh.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of get it, but I
don't.
You know,
I don't. If a ticket is $25, it should be $25 if 2 people want to see the show or 2,000 people want to see the show. Yeah. First come, first serve. Not, well, it's $25, but since there's a lot of people on hold, it's $85. That's bullshit. Nonsense.
Oh, the worst. All right. What do we want to start with this week?
The great new Metallica record.
The average new Metallica record.
The great new Metallica record.
All right, we'll dive into the new Metallica record. I'm
just going to dive right in.
All right.
I love it. You don't. Right. Why? What is it that you don't like about it?
it's the one thing that you keep saying about the record that hurts it. You're like, well, it doesn't really have any hooks. It doesn't really hook you. Like, and I'm like, well, I kind of want that. I kind of want that when I'm listening to music. I want something to hook me in. I don't want to just be like, all right, well, it's a cool record or whatnot, but it's, I hate to be the guy, and I'm going to say it right now.
Yeah.
Lars ruined this record. Like there are so many parts of this record where there's like intricate guitar work going on, and there's like just basic four, two, what is it? Four on the floor, doom, pa, doom.
Yeah, well, he can't play anymore. I'll give you that. He's not a good player. He's not.
But there's so many studio tricks you can do, and I guess I get it if they're going to play all of these songs live. But I mean, at least they tried with some of the tracks. But man, the drums are just so empty on this record. It just takes me out of it.
All right.
I did hear it at the gym today though, and I was like, all right, it doesn't sound too bad on this system. And I had someone else hit me up saying like, it sounds good on my home system. But it's just funny that we're giving Metallica so many chances. I've listened to this album at least 10 times from start to finish. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to give it another shot. All right, I'm going to give it another shot. Like there's so many bands out there that if they don't get me by the first verse of the first song on the record, I'm like, nah, I guess I'm good.
Right.
But I'm like, all right, Metallica, I'm going to give you one more shot. I'm going to get
sure.
I mean, there's moments on the record, but overall, I think this record in 5-10 years is going to be completely forgotten.
See, no chance for me. I love it. I know I will be listening to Shadows Follow for the rest of my life. That is definitely a keeper for me. I like that one. I like that You Will Burn. I like the 4 that were released.
Yeah.
Really, I like all 4 of those songs. The only one that I don't love is probably the Suicide one, whatever that's, Screaming Suicide. That's a little campy, and Hetfield's voice sounds a little strained out on that one, but I love it. The sound is big and fat, and and I like Metallica trying to be COC a little bit. I like the more stoned out guitar sound that they've got going on this thing. I've seen a bunch of people saying the guitars are fuzzy. Yeah, that's what they were going for.
Right.
It's very clear that that's what they were going for, was a little more of a dirty, muddy thing, and not in the Saint Anger kind of way that just blows. They were going for something very specific. I've seen exactly what you're saying written 900 places, that people wish that there were more hooks. I wish that there were a few more hooks. But then again, if they would have added hooks to some of these songs, do they become Enter Sandman or The Memory Remains? If they throw a big hook into Shadows Follow or 72 Seasons, does it become The Memory Remains?
Yeah.
And it's like, it probably does. I don't know. I'm liking it.
There's, I think is the way he says crown in Crown of Barbed Wire. Sounds like Life of Agony to me.
Right.
I was listening to a lot of Life of Agony. I was like, man, that's very Life of Agony ish. Right. I think I really like Room of Mirrors.
But
I mean, there's a couple of tracks. Shadows Follow. Is that the one with the bass opens it up?
It's a track 2. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I thought that was going to go somewhere else. I was like, oh, this sounds cool. And then fucking Eddie Van Halen shows up.
Did you like the last track, that in Emorata or whatever it's called?
Yes and no. I mean, it's
too
good.
long. It's too long.
11 minutes is too long for a song.
Yeah, it's I hate to compare Metallica to anything, but it reminds me a whole lot of when Guns N' Roses, and this is 30 years ago, but this is me being an old head, when Guns N' Roses did Estranged or Coma, either one of them, especially Coma. That's, I don't know if you know that song or not, but Coma kind of rocks for a while. Then all of a sudden it has that somber breakdown in the middle where Axl sounds like he's singing from the womb or something before he like breaks free again. And it's almost like they stole that idea. It's like, well, I could do without that, but yeah, I just like it. The overall, dude, I like everything on it. I'm sold.
Yeah,
the only, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, you're like with the of Death Magnetic and then Hardwired in this one. I think I would rank them Hardwired, Death Magnetic, and then the new album.
Crazy talk. But I would rank it the best since the Black Album. Not better than the Black Album. Again, because I said that before and I got 15 freaking emails from people. You're fucking crazy. I'm not saying it's better than the Black Album. It's better than Load. So if you take everything after the Black Album, Load, Reload, Saint Anger, S&M, S&M2, Lulu, Hardwired, and Death Magnetic, I put it above all those. Close on Death Magnetic.
I would take Garage Inc. over this thing.
I would take Garage Inc. over this thing too. For the first disc, for the old stuff.
Right.
For the Prince and Bread fan alone, I would take it over this album. But
I think it's funny you brought up the term old head in there.
Yeah.
I love that term. Like, I don't care if it's derogatory towards like old people. I think there's just it's just a fun way of calling somebody old.
Well, and that's, I mean, we've already played out. What was the one that everybody was using? Boomer.
Yeah. That's one I can't stand.
Yeah. We've already played that one out. So I'll go with old head. And I don't mind being called an old head. Because I am an old head. Look at this fucking white beard. I am an old head.
Hello, gents. Digging the show from Mike Jolitz.
Hello, Mike.
Hello, Michael. But when we were talking about different names for the show, if we were going to take the name Talk To Me away and give us I was trying to make it to old head. I was saying old heads bangers ball.
Yeah, there you go. Nice.
But you
I
make
like
it
that.
as old heads.
Old head bangers ball. Old head bangers ball. That'd be good.
Right. Yeah, that was the one I was going to do with it, man. But let's dive into something else, man. And something else popped up.
All right.
It looks like Newsted may be getting back together, but as we started to record, looks like there's some clarification.
Okay.
Jason Newsted says Newsted concert in Fort Lauderdale is a one-off, but doesn't rule out future activity.
Jeez, come on, bro.
During an appearance earlier today on SiriusXM's Trunk Nation with Eddie Trunk, former Metallica bassist Jason Newsted spoke about his decision to reactivate his Newsted project for a May 20th concert at Revolution Live in Fort Lauderdale. Newsted, who plays bass and sings on the project, will be joined by original Newsted members Jesus Mendez Jr. and on drums and Jesse Farnsworth on guitar, along with new guitarist Humberto Perez.
So our friend Mike from Saint Asonia beat it.
Scram.
You're not welcome back here, pal.
Well, Mike Mooshak's not even doing Saint Asonia right now. He's back.
Yeah, no. He's just doing Stained, yeah.
Asked how he arrived at the decision to bring back Newsted after a decade-long absence, Jason said, as transcribed by blabbermouth.net, kind of by happenstance and how we keep chasing it for fun. That's always been our thing, playing with whoever and whenever. About a year ago at this time, the Chop House Band played at the Maltz Theater in Jupiter, Florida, and Jesus Mendez, the drummer of Newsted, and Jesse Farnsworth, the guitarist, guested at the end of that program. And they came over to HQ and we jammed a bit on the side. Okay. And then I went on the Talk To Me podcast and we talked about how great the Newsted band was. So we thought we would get it back together.
That's right. That's how it went.
And then I think the seed got replanted. And so I had to finish with the Chop House Band. So I did that. And then I got these guys back together a couple of weeks ago again. And it was epiphanous kind of trip. Yeah, right. Everybody's smiling at each other and happy. Yeah, they're smiling and happy because they're playing with you, Jason. I'd be off the walls too. So it's really mostly about for feeling alive and marking the 10th anniversary of the formation of the band and being brothers again.
Well, and it doesn't hurt to announce the gig the week of a Metallica release. That doesn't hurt. That won't help sell it out.
Yeah, he was listening to the new Metallica and he's like, I could blow this out of the water.
Yeah, I'm sure he was, but I'm sure he was also looking at the timing and saying, well, I'm not going to announce it yet. now.
Hold.
Yep.
Hold. Yes, Mike Jollett's Jason Newked is still great.
That's right. I'm a fan. I hope he brings it back. I loved the one album was just called Music, right? Or metal music.
A Soldier Head and all that on it.
Yeah. I mean, the EP was Newsted, and then the album was just called Metal. It was great. He should come back full time if he can keep it together. Problem with him is he's got too much money.
Yeah,
he doesn't have the drive to do it. It's like, you go and play 2-3 days in a row and it's shitty in a van or something or whatever, or the towels aren't nice enough in the hotel he's staying at or whatever. And he's just like, fuck it, I'm going to go back to my palatial estate in Maine or wherever it is he lives now. Doesn't he live in Maine?
Yeah, somewhere up there. I think I feel like it's like Massachusetts, but
yeah, I know he moved from Walnut Creek. He was out there, and now he's out the other side.
Now he's a local band in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, right.
The in the interview I did with him when we were talking about him getting Flotsam and Jetsam back together, and they were really gonna like do some shows or whatnot, but then he said he didn't really like flat out say it.
Mm-hmm.
But he basically said, like, I don't mind funding some of this, but not all of this. And it kind of came across as they started being like, hey, Jason, I need a plane ticket, and Jason, I need this, and Jason, I need that, and a new guitar rig, and blah, blah, blah. And so I think that's where he was just like, all right, I can't do all of it,
Right. Well, and I can see that. I mean, dude, how much money does Flotsam and Jetsam make? I mean, I'm not trying to shit on them. They're one of my favorite bands. Yeah. But let's face it, as one of my favorite bands, they might have an audience worldwide of 10,000 people.
Might be a little low,
more.
But yeah, I think some of their newer records are some of the strongest stuff they ever did.
Yeah.
Anyway, I saw them live a few years ago. Great live band. Eric AK still got a great voice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, you
love
put Jason Newsted in the band, and they play, what was the album? Doomsday or whatever.
Yeah, Doomsday for the Deceiver. Yeah.
You put Jason Newsted in Flotsam and Jetsam, and they play the first album in its entirety. That's going to obviously pull a few more butts than just regular Flotsam tour.
It would, and I would be one of them that would be right there to see it. But I just don't think. I get it with Jason. Jason still wants to be one of the guys.
Yeah.
He like refuses to accept that he played on the biggest metal album of all time. Yeah. He just refuses to accept that. He makes more money from people listening to his music 30 years ago than those guys have made in 30 years. Yeah. I mean, that's really the truth of it is, his royalty checks have got to be more than Flotsam and Jetsam makes. And bravo to him. I'm not, begrudging him that. I mean, he did the work. He toured that. I mean, how long did they tour that album? 2 years or whatever, the Black album. And, he's more than welcome to it, but he still wants to be one of the guys. He doesn't want to be Flotsam and Jetsam featuring Jason Newsted.
Right.
He just wants to be the bass player that, drives from midnight till 4 a.m. on their way to Tucson or wherever.
Well, that being said, his band is called Newsted. So,
well, yeah, but that's his, but in that band, he does fund the whole thing. Yeah. And that's why he stepped away, was because he got tired of funding the whole thing. He didn't want to do it.
He did the 2 albums, metal and heavy metal music.
Right.
So he might need to go back to the album name generator and try again.
I know. I'm looking forward to the new album. Really heavy metal music.
Super death metal music.
Even heavier metal music.
Let's dive into something you actually sent me, and we both got in our emails, and you were, I think you're a little bit more excited than I am about. Yeah. Max and Igor Cavalera re-record Sepultura's Bestial, Devastation, and Morbid Visions and announce a tour. And to which I told you, something no one has ever asked for, and you came back with, yeah, right.
Yeah, I am asking for it. Those records are full of great songs. And you know what? Nobody knows it. You know why? Because they sound like ass.
Oh yeah.
They absolutely sound. The joke that we all make is that it sounds like it was recorded on a boombox. We've all told that joke at some point about some band. Those two albums really sound like they were recorded on a boombox. They just sound like shit. But man, if you can dig past them, and I mean, you can kind of get a feel if you just go one album up when they did Beneath the Remains.
Mm-hmm.
When they did Beneath the Remains, I guess that's what, 2 records up, right? Because there's Schizophrenia in there somewhere. But when you get to Beneath the Remains, they sound fantastic. And it still sounds like the same band, so it's like those albums are just even more heavy. They were almost a death metal band at that point. And then, and then they softened just a touch. It's weird to say that they softened for Arise, but they did. They softened just a hair for Arise, and it was enough to make them superstars. But yeah, I'm all about this thing, dude. To hear them re-record these with today's production, I can't wait for that. I'm more excited about this than anything Max has done in the last 10 years. Anything.
Yeah, I'm looking at the at the track listings here. Yeah, obviously Troops of Doom is on this, so that's a classic.
Sure.
Did they re-record it on Schizophrenia, or why is it on Schizophrenia also?
Because it wasn't that with a different lineup of the band.
Yeah.
The first two had that Gyro guy, right? The Gyro, whatever his name is that they always celebrate. And then the Skits, I think, had maybe Andreas was on. So they redid it.
Mike still love Beneath the Remains, play it regularly.
That's because Mike has great taste.
Daniel Terry says, I always thought Arise had the best riffs.
Do you think that?
It's a re-record on Schizophrenia.
Okay,
thanks, Daniel Terry.
There you go. Do you agree with Beneath the Remains, or do you start at Arise? A lot of people start at Arise and miss Beneath the Remains for some reason.
Yeah, when I did the when I interviewed Max for the Beneath the Remains, what did they do? It was Beneath the Remains and Arise, like Beneath the Arisal or whatever they were calling it. I went back and listened to Beneath the Remains more. I mean, I had all this early stuff. Obviously, Schizophrenia sounds like garbage too, like the drums on Schizophrenia. So they re-recorded a track off of Bestial, Devastations and Morbid Visions to make it sound a little bit better, and it still sounds like garbage on Schizophrenia. But I mean, it's going to be fun to go back and check out. But yeah, I'd start with Arise. I will admit, but I definitely go back to Beneath the Remains some. How about that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the first album I ever owned by them was Arise. Yeah. And I remember, dude, you want to talk about funny? My ex-wife that was definitely not into metal. Like, she thought AC/DC was a little too heavy for the house.
Ooh, yeah.
And I showed up with that. It was quite the shock going from primarily listening to like Guns N' Roses and Winger to all of a sudden here I am with Arise. She was like, "What the hell is wrong with you?" I was like, "I'm just finding my shit."
Let's dive into the story here. Nuclear Blast has announced the signing of Cavalera, the project featuring Sepultura's founding members Max Cavalera and Igor Cavalera on drums. The first release under the deal will be a re-recording of Sepultura's first EP, Bestial Devastation, originally released in 1985, and the debut full-length album Morbid Visions in 1986.
Cool.
Max comments, as we get harder year after year, sometimes you've got to go back to where it all started. We re-recorded Bestial Devastation and Morbid Vision with the amazing sound of now, but with the raw and timeless spirit. The artwork reflects the times we're living in right now, apocalyptic as hell. We also have 2 new tracks with riffs from those days remembered by heart.
Wow.
Okay. Basically, they got in a jam room. You remember this riff?
Yeah.
Oh shit, I remember that one.
Let's write something.
Let's write a new track.
New track now.
Right. Igor states, I've always felt like the recordings of our earlier work didn't do it justice to the way we performed the songs. No shit. So this is a very special moment in our lives that we are very proud to show you real fans our true representation of the amazing records, Bestial, Devastation, and Morbid Visions with an insane visual identity. Enjoy and see you all in the pit.
All right, now let's play this out.
Okay.
For the first, there's never, in my mind, been a re-record of anything that people have considered to be better than the original.
Yeah.
Never. I can't, if you could think of one, name it. I don't think there ever has been one.
The only thing I saw was the Exodus re-records. I think people were saying that those were good.
They were good. The what you're talking about, Bonded by Blood or Rebonded by Blood or whatever that was. It's good, but it ain't better than it's not better than the original.
Yeah.
This really has a chance to be, just because the originals were so bad. You know, so do you think that these become the go-tos instead of the original Sepulturas?
I would think so. I mean, you would almost think so, just because, like, I mean, when I think of Morbid Visions and Bestial Devastation, I would have never even thought to go back and re-record these.
Right.
I would have just left them alone for time to kind of take over. But it's kind of a weird thing for them too. To obviously they're not in Sepultura, but they go back and re-record the first two Sepultura releases or whatever. That's a pretty ballsy move.
Well, it's their power grab. This is just, dude, Max especially, but I guess Max and Igor, since they've gotten together, they have been on the Sepultura power grab. And they've basically said, well, if we can't have the name, we're going to do all the music anyway. You know, they did Beneath the Remains. They did Chaos, or not Chaos, Arise, live. Right. Just promoted it as Cavalera. Now they're doing these two as not only live, but in re-recorded fashion. We're minutes away from a new version of Chaos AD.
Chaos
and I'm right
2024.
And I'm right there for it.
I don't think you can touch that record. That record is
it's amazing. I don't know that it could surpass.
Yes, Daniel Terry, trust me, there are tons of basement dwelling dudes who will always prefer the more raw versions. Yeah. I like the demo version best, man.
Yeah. Ugh. Well, I don't think either of us will be two of those basement dwellers. No, thank you.
No. I will say that, do not touch Chaos AD. Like that's the one.
I hope they don't. Believe me, I hope they don't touch that. I hope they don't touch Roots. I hope they don't touch Arise.
Yeah.
But given the path that those guys seem to be on, would it surprise you if they do? Not me.
I agree. Let's dive into I just love this one for the headline. We don't even have to go much further past the headline.
Okay.
But Morbid Angels, Trey Azagthoth. If you don't like my music, fuck you. Go listen to some other bands.
I guess that's one way to put it.
Yes, yeah. So if you don't like Morbid Angel,
then don't listen. Exactly. Good for him.
The way I look at it, when I write my music, if people don't like it, fuck you. Fuck you. Go listen to some other band. I write fucking music for myself. I don't write music for any fans. And if they don't like it, they can just fucking move on to some other band or whatever. That's the way I look at it. I'm not really afraid. Like, well, I hope I'm catchy. I hope this is going to be trendy or whatever, thing like that. Actually, I'm trying to do anti-trends. It's a big fuck you to anybody that thinks they want to follow trends or rules or things like that. They think that's important other than coming from yourselves.
Sounds like the publicist gave him a 9 a.m. interview or something. He was just mad.
He added, I don't need other people to make me feel valid. I determine that myself. If you don't like it, fuck you. That's the way I look at it.
Wow.
That's from the Chris Akin school of
that's
PR
right
there.
It's exactly how I would have put it. Well, good for him for saying it the way he did. You know what, dude? More and more I like that these guys just say what they think. I mean, what's better, that, or if he would be, this music's not for everybody, but if you're tuned into what we're going for as a band, that line of shit always. I despise when I'm doing an interview and people start throwing that garbage at me. So good for him for just saying, hey, you don't like it? Fuck off. Beat it. Go listen to something else. Go listen to your yellow Metallica record. You trendy fags. I mean, Jesus. I mean, it's kind of what he's saying there.
Yeah. Daniel Terry, if you're intentionally anti-trend, then you do care what people think.
Well, yeah.
It's like one of those oxymorons, like, yeah. I also saw that I guess the I Am Morbid is going to be doing kind of a 30th anniversary of Covenant, which I would love to see, but I think they're only doing that overseas.
Right.
Dude, another thing back to the Alan Robert interview. We were talking about one of the early Life of Agony tours, and I remember it would have been Carcass on Heartwork and Life of Agony on River Runs Red. Like that was a tour that came through town at one point. I was like, and that was like right before I started going to shows.
Okay.
So like I vaguely remember, I was just like, oh my God, I want to go. So that would have been like 93 or something.
Right. You'd have been done. You'd have seen the pinnacle in 1993.
I would have seen the greatest thing ever.
That's right. Would have never needed another one.
Right. Thank you, Troy Turner. No lie detected there.
He's right.
A couple of other dumb things before we get into some review. As I hit the X,
just skip off.
Yeah, I actually clicked it off on as I was hitting it. I was going to talk about Motley Crue entering the studio, and since you're our resident Motley Crue fan, what do you think about Motley Crue entering the studio with John Five and Bob Rock?
I think it's another middle finger to Mick Mars. It's like, all right, it's all right. All right, fucky. If you're gonna sue us, then we're gonna record new music without you. Because this came up what 2-3 days ago. They said, we're just jamming. Now they're in the studio with Bob Rock.
Right.
So it's either A, just a straight up F you to Mick Mars, or B, another Nikki Sixx lie that this has been in the pipeline for a while. And I'm thinking to have Bob Rock in the studio and the big studio and everything, that this was already on the calendar. And they did the story about that they're just feeling good as a band and they're starting to write together. I think that was all just PR crap. Nikki Sixx, imagine that telling another lie. So, I mean, whatever, dude. They can write till their hands fall off. They haven't written a good song since 1989. So let's just be. I know some will be in there with the Saints of Los Angeles. No, it wasn't. It's crap. It's garbage. But whatever. If you're still into Motley Crue, you'll get a Motley Crue song, I guess. And I like John Five. It's funny.
Rocking the old school, the Black Album era,
right?
Hetfield guitar, I guess that Hetfield maybe left at the studio or whatever. But I mean, that's clearly a Hetfield modified Explorer there, so that's pretty amazing.
It is. It's pretty sweet. But dude, it's funny that now that John is in Motley Crue, there's finally a cool member in Motley Crue. Well, I guess Mick was sort of cool, but John Five is a cool guy. So at least there's one cool guy in the band. So. Just unfortunately, he's got to work with those three dicks.
Yeah, Troy Turner. It's a massive FU to Mick. These guys can't help but be childish and petty. I have 100% been on the Mick Mars train on this whole time, and just like propping them up for years and all that stuff, and just the back and forth with the two camps. And I mean, I think the more that they talk, the more that they're making Motley Crue look worse and worse the way they're kind of treating this whole Mick Mars situation.
But you know what? The only thing that's truly bad about this, they are like John Gotti. They are Teflon. Nothing they do. Beat your wife. No problem. Go to jail for beating your wife. No problem. Overdose on heroin. That's cool. Whatever. Let's write a book about it.
Right.
Go out, find homeless guys and give them $20 to use them for your own amusement. Cool. Great. Let's make millions off the book on that too. they get a pass. Vince Neil can't sing worth a shit. Whatever. Here's another $300 a ticket. They get away with everything. They always do. The media lets it go. The knothead fans from that era are just continue to let it go because they got laid listening to Same Old Situation back in 1991. It's like, just if this band was ever held accountable for the shit way they are as human beings, they would be considered the same as Ian Watkins from Lost Prophets. That's how big of shitheads they are. But everybody lets it go. Everybody just lets everything. They've killed people, they've beaten women, they've now they lie, they rip fans off. How many fans got ripped off flying to LA for the last concert ever in 2015 and just have another tour and now another 8 years of touring behind it? These guys are shitheads. So if you're still supporting this shithead band, sorry, John 5, I like you, but you joined a band of shitheads. You're foolish if you still support this band.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one, man. Yeah, and plus with John 5 being in it, and the only thing I thought about when I saw the photos of John 5 in the studio with Motley Crue, it did get me kind of worried that I will be seeing photos of Terry Date in the studio with Pantera.
I'm okay, dude. I asked Simerman that last night if he would consider doing a Pantera with Charlie and Zach, and he said yes. I was like, ooh. I was like, I don't know if people will want that one or not.
Troy Turner, if what Chris was saying was a comment, I couldn't give it enough likes.
Oh, thank you. It's the truth.
Yeah.
Everybody that has a camera and a microphone is afraid to say it, but it's the truth. They're shitty people. Is that wrong?
No,
is there anybody that's going to step up and tell me that, if we want to go story by story, there's a zillion of them. Right here in Cleveland, the girl that put together the Skylar Neal Foundation was from here. Vince played a show and wouldn't sign stuff that they were auctioning off for his fucking charity.
Wow.
The manager had to take the stuff on the bus, hide, and sign it himself instead of having Vince sign it. It's like they're shitty people. They're awful, awful human beings. Awful.
Hey, hang on. I do believe we have somebody that wants to defend them here. Hello,
okay.
Caller. You're on the air. Is this Tim James from Australia? Oh, sorry. Wrong show.
Boys, they're great. They're really fantastic.
But he'll call in. They're all right. They're not bad people.
Everybody makes mistakes.
And if they ever come to Australia again, I will be there.
That's right. Too funny.
Oh, yeah. Good times, man. All right. Well, let's dive into some reviews, recommendations. What have you been listening to, watching this week?
Well, the only thing I've been listening to is the thrash album that's out there. That's, legendary thrash band. Overkill. Yeah. Because the Metallica is clearly a rock record, but it's a great rock record. But the Overkill is fantastic too. But yeah, the only thing in my player has been Metallica this week. That's all I'm listening to. I want to give clarification now that I watched the first episode of the show last week that I had no real idea what I was talking about.
Okay.
It might be called Oklahoma City. It might be this or that. It is called Waco Aftermath. It's on Paramount Plus. First episode just dropped. And it is a continuation of the Waco movie or movie series that was on Netflix. The one with, and I don't know that guy's name. That's the investigator guy that was the mouthpiece guy, but he's in it. John Leguizamo's back in it. The guy that played David Koresh is in it. And it kind of goes, it's kind of like if you told the whole story and you ripped out the actual burning down of Waco, that's what you get. It's kind of like The Godfather 2 in a way, where you're seeing some stuff that's modern, like, or after, where they're doing with the trials and stuff, and they're showing Tim McVeigh getting madder and madder and renting a Ryder truck and getting on and driving. I'm assuming he's going to Oklahoma City with that Ryder truck, but
spoilers, dude.
Yeah, here you go. Spoiler alert. But then there's a lot of backstory that's almost prequel to it about how Koresh moved there, and then there was that other lady that was the spiritual leader, and so that he could take over the church, he started banging this old lady, that was the spiritual leader, and then he became the spiritual leader. So they're kind of doing the trials of the Waco people. They're featuring on that. Giovanni Ribisi is in this thing too, he's awesome. So it's fantastic. At least the first episode, they only put out one so far, but it's called Waco Aftermath, and it is really, really excellent. So check that one out. And of course, Metallica.
So are they linking Timothy McVeigh to the Waco stuff?
Yes.
Was that what triggered the Oklahoma City bombing?
Well, it's pretty well known, and there's actual video footage of McVeigh at Waco. McVeigh went to Waco, like he was on the whole train of not necessarily the cult train, but he was definitely in the, people should be allowed to have as many guns as they want, and and live in peace and not be bugged by the government, and the government stole their rights, that whole piece. And when Waco was going on, there's actual, how like when Waco was going on, I don't know, you're probably not old enough to remember it real well, but it was kind of
I do, actually, yeah.
Do you?
I was like 14, yeah.
Okay, so remember they would show the people at Waco, and there was like hundreds of people that were there, like just watching. And one of the people in the crowd was McVeigh.
Okay.
So Oklahoma City happened on the 1-year anniversary of Waco. Like, that's why he blew it up. He blew it up to make the statement of the 1 year. So they're definitely tying the loose ends to that, and eventually we're going to see something blow up, I'm assuming, in this series. So
Mike Jolitz, I once wrote a song where I mentioned David Koresh during the whole standoff. It's not good, but I did that.
There you go. Very good. Well, you hooked me up with David Thibodeau, and I'm going to have him on my Chris Aiken Presents show. I think the 8th of May.
Okay. So you did talk to him?
Yeah, I did. Okay. And he was going to do it, but he's traveling, because he's got the anniversary thing is tomorrow, actually. And then he's traveling stuff. And he's like meeting family or something like after. And he said he'll be back May 1st, but Eric's going to be on the boat May 1st, cruising around with the aging rock stars,
Right.
So when he comes back, we're going to have David Thibodeau on to talk some Waco. Can't wait for that.
Yeah. That's like one of those weird things that, the podcast has given me, is that the fact that I could reach out to David Thibodeau actually have a civil, actually it's actually funnier, like when I post things on Facebook and he comments,
right?
He'd be like, what do you think about this Metallica video? And he'd be like, oh, it's pretty fucking good. I'm like, that's the dude from Waco.
Yeah, that's the guy from Waco. He's the guy that jumped out the window. It's like, dude, I cannot get enough of anytime I can interview anybody that's done something world newsly.
Yeah.
I'm more than willing to step out of the music comfort zone. I think I mentioned this before, but my favorite interview I've ever done was Freeway Rick Ross, who funded the Iran-Contra scandal by selling drugs in LA. And I was surprised at how easy that was to get. It wasn't like I had to go through some publicist and share numbers and all the other garbage that, the third bass player of Winger might make me do. It's like I literally saw an email address on his website and just was like, boom. I threw him an email and he hit me back and said, here's my phone number. Call me. I called him and he's like, hey, can you do Thursday? Yes.
Yes, I can.
Yes, I can. And let's talk drugs.
who doesn't like a little bit? Daniel Terry, who doesn't like a little bit of true crime in their music podcast?
Of course, this is just a whatever podcast, isn't
it? I love when you're like, I wonder if I can find this person. Like, even when I did the Terry Date interview, like I found like his email address on like some, I don't even know what website. I mean, it was like the most generic Terry Date email address possible too. It was, at a Gmail, and I'm like, all right, I don't even know. I'm just gonna send it and see what happens. And he came on and did it, man. But yeah, that was...
dude, it really, going back to your point about getting comments and stuff. It's always weird when people that you absolutely worshipped at one point are like in your friend list. It's like, on Facebook, I get stuff every now and again, even if it's just a like or a that's funny or whatever, from like Sterling Winfield. And I'll just be like, wow.
Right.
It's like, how'd that happen? How did I get in that mix?
Mike, that is awesome. You still have your Talk to Me sticker on your laptop. Daniel Terry, podcasting is the only acceptable case for stalking people. Yes.
True.
Troy, with the Metallica videos, at this point, there's a video for every song.
Yeah.
It's funny is that I listened to Speak and Destroy. That's Ryan J. Downey's Metallica podcast, and he did a full-on episode where he talked about going to the theater, which I talked about trying to do.
Sure.
Did not end up doing, but man, hearing him talk about it, I was like, God, I wish I would have done that.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I just waited till midnight, and I did like a listening party it was the weirdest thing. I just started commenting about it, and then it just kind of tumbled into like 15 people or 20 people that were all commenting on, they were like listening in the same real time that I was. And it was kind of interesting and fun to just do one of those, like, it's almost like a Q&A type thing on, or whatever they call those things on Facebook. It was really fun, actually. Now, I wish I would have gone.
Yeah, it would have been fun, man. Honestly, all I've listened to, I think, is the new Metallica, trying to give it chance after chance after chance. Watching wise, the only thing we've started watching is Yellow Jackets. I don't know much about it yet, but that's the only thing we've started watching.
That's a hard one to get into. I've tried twice and I haven't gotten there, and I know it's good. And I like the girl, Melanie, whatever her name is. I loved her in The Shield when her and her husband kidnapped the girl because I don't know if you know this story or not, but the girl, Melanie, whatever her name is, I think it's Melanie Lindsley or something.
Okay.
She, in The Shield, her and her husband kidnapped this girl because the husband wanted to bang the girl. So they kidnapped her and kept her in the bathtub and cut her arm off and stuff just to make her not look pretty. It's bizarro land, but she, she's in that show, and there's a lot of good people in that show. And it's I don't know. It's a weird combination of like Lost and, remember that movie Alive where the soccer team ate themselves?
Yeah.
It's sort of, that's what I would compare Yellow Jackets to, although I'm certainly no expert in it. I got like 5 episodes in, over 2 attempts to get into it. So I'm like kind of
The Shield is the reason I dropped out of community college. I think it was the season finale or something was going on, and I instead of going to school, I stayed home to watch it. That was before the DVR, so I had to see what was Shield came on. What was that, Monday, or was that, what day of the week was the Shield on?
I thought it was Thursday. I could be wrong on that though. I don't.
It was something that was Monday. I think it was 24 on Mondays. So like, I don't know, but there was a couple of shows right at that time, and I was like way too into the Shield, and I ended up just stopped going to community college because I was taking like night classes too, and I was like, I really just want to go watch the Shield.
You wanted to see if Shane was going to get caught or killed or whatever, right?
Yeah. There we go. We got a listener recommendation. The new Metallica record is solid, but I've had the new Of Sulfur album on repeat, AOTY at the moment, and not even close. Album of the year at the moment. Right. Yeah, I'll definitely have to check that one out.
I'm going to check that one out. All I'll say back to him is Chelsea Grin is the album of the year. So go find that one. And then tell me if it's better, if Of Sulfur is better. And I'll go listen to Of Sulfur too. I'll check that out. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I was actually stalling at the end there because I haven't really watched or listened to anything this week. I ended up we have like a minor league soccer team here, and I took the little one to see that over the weekend. Can confirm that Of Sulfur is fucking great from Daniel Terry. So
there we go.
Two for the Of Sulfur record. So I think that'll do it here for another episode of Talk to Me here on notfest.com. So make sure you go rate, review, subscribe to the podcast. You can follow the show at Talk to Me Talk on Twitter, at Talk to Me Talk on Facebook. And thanks to everybody for checking out in the comment section there. That was a lot of fun having that going as we were going here today. And for the Talk to Me podcast, I've been Joshua Toomey.
I am still Chris Akin.
And we will talk to you soon.
See ya.